So, are you happy with it?
Um, um. Hi, friends. It's a good idea that you've come prepared with an umbrella. It feels like the skies are going to burst with heavy rain soon. Before we set up on location for a quick sketch, we are off to Sabai Coffee House in Irvine. It's a new coffee shop that has popped up, and we are all about supporting local businesses. The coffee was on point, and well, Toby was interested in my toasty because Toby is committed to quality assurance, especially when it involves his love for his mama. And maybe his due diligence is also because I give him a taste of my food most nights. Once we were fully caffeinated, I headed over to the harbor in Irvine. I found a bench and decided to just get to work. I had eyed a ship as we had parked our van and decided to make it the subject of my sketch. I've been sketching pretty regularly these days, and today I wanted to only use charcoal and an autumnal color scheme using my pen pastels. My sketches are rough and unimpressive most of the time. Somewhere in the back of my mind, I can hear the whispers and sometimes screams of the judgment police. I'd like all my sketches to turn into something surprisingly genius, but friends, I'm afraid that isn't happening. Well, not just yet. It's a blow to my confidence, and I question whether I'm going about this path the right way. As of now, I'm on this art journey via the self-taught way. But juggling and planning that can be confusing. What do I focus on learning? What lessons on Skillshare should I watch? What medium should I use if I want a messy and minimalist look? What books should I read? How long do I sketch for each day? What brushes do I use when I'm working with acrylics? I want to learn about every medium and every technique, commit to creative play, get back to my illustrations that I've started on, and research approaches. But obviously, I can't fit that all in a day. This also doesn't include creating content and putting together these lovely episodes for you all, which I'm just loving more and more each week. I have a million ideas on how I want to express the importance of art, and once again, that requires a different line of research and networking. I want to be the best self-taught art student, and I want to always be improving as a content creator. Ultimately, I believe the root to my discomfort is that I'm setting up my own curriculum for transitioning into art and content creation, and I have no guidance. I have no one addressing my issues and putting me on learning paths so I don't stray off and miss important details. I don't have that assessment that I usually get from a mentor or educator. My biggest fear is that I don't see the improvement in my art that I want to see because I don't have the right schedule or routine put in place. And that, of course, will impact my content greatly. At the end of my workday during the week, I'm pretty tired. I work 9 to 5, ensuring that I have an episode to publish every Friday. And after I've been staring at a screen for hours, all I want to do is relax. Like I said, I fear that my art practice is suffering or lagging behind because the energy is hard to come up with. Sure, I've tried to work ahead to get my content done and uploaded before Friday. However, that has only led me to working late over the rest of the days, and by the time Friday rolls along, I'm knackered. Absolutely needing a nap to make me feel human again. So, of course, with this looming problem, I gave myself some homework to do. I set out to do some research. I needed to investigate and learn of a new approach for being self-taught. I searched for self-taught artists on YouTube, and I started to reflect. I needed to make sure that any recommendations that I would take on would actually work for me. The bottom line is that I want my self-taught journey to be very tailored to what I like and what my aspirations are. From my research, I came to conclude that I needed to not only be more consistent with sketching, but to be more consistent with completing tutorials. But you see, I always get stuck there. How do I pick and choose? There are so many tutorials out there. Which one's the right one to start with? The answer came when I watched an episode from Ana Cornejo's channel. Ana is an oil painter who started her art journey via the self-taught way. It was a simple answer, really. Ana explained that all I really need to do is choose artists that inspire me and whose style I aspire to, and take as many tutorials that I possibly can with them. She reminded me how useful YouTube has been as a free resource and encouraged me to take advantage of that. That's what started her off and gave feet to her now art career. So that was it. Pick an artist, subscribe to their channel, and watch their tutorials consistently. That was a formula that I could get behind. It would be like turning up for class every day or every other day. That's a structure I didn't know was enough, or whether I needed to tackle a million other things for the time being, like buying hundreds of art books or spending a whopping amount of money on evening classes. Friends, choosing artists that I would absolutely love to learn from and flourish was easy. Toby Sketchloose and Alan Ramiro are extraordinary artists that have amazing styles that I can only dream of one day creating my own take on. I found Toby Sketchloose on Skillshare and recently learned that he has a YouTube channel and offers a series of courses online that are pretty darn affordable. I found Alan Ramiro on Instagram. He has a wide array of content on YouTube, and he also offers different types of workshops. Toby is an urban sketcher, and Alan is a travel sketcher. What they do with ink and watercolor is magic. Their line work looks effortless, but yet holds so much character. It's not hard to want to build the environments they interpret on their blank page. And speaking of blank page, I'm filling mine up. I gave myself 15 minutes to lay down all the pencil. And see, that's another question. When should I transition to doing my line work only in pen? I've seen both Toby and Alan just sketch with pens. The reason I do my pencil first is because I feel a little nervous making a permanent line. How about if it's too crooked or squiggly? But then again, sketching means you're not perfect, and maybe if I only worked in pen, I would become more comfortable with it. I guess that's something for me to look into. In the meantime, the sketching of the ship will be no different from my other sketches. After glancing over to the ship for like the millionth time and avoiding droppings from the birds flying about, I decided to go with my 0.4mm pen for most of the sketch. I realized that I didn't do a superb job with my pencil work. Some of the angles of the ship towards the bottom were slightly off. The ship was lacking character. It looked too bare. I like quirky imperfections, and well, I think I made these lines too clean. Maybe adding color will liven it up. The houses in the background were okay. New builds just don't have that character like big stately homes from the 18th century or medieval castles. These new builds have smooth finishes, and while that's great for people living in them, that does nothing for artistic inspiration. I know, it's up to me to interpret these builds with a bit of quirk. I guess I just enjoy drawing old things, or better yet, broken things. Perhaps weathered things is a better description. I like seeing glimpses of a story from my subjects, and for me that means the showing of age or wear, or both. Right, I believe that's me done with pencil and pen. I thought about continuing on with color outside, but I could feel that there was going to be a downpour very soon. So I decided to add color at home. With all the mediums I would be using around me, I set my timer and began to flow. My husband had challenged me with only using an autumnal scheme and charcoal. This was going to get interesting. I began with my pan pastels, focusing on the ship. The ship was going to consist of mainly reds and some beige and a tiny bit of orange. I didn't want to come in too heavy with the charcoal, but that didn't last long. Charcoal's rather new to me, and I'm still learning how to maneuver it. I allocated a heavy amount of charcoal to the lower section of the ship, where it meets the water. My pinky finger was pulling its weight, trying to smooth over the boldness of the charcoal. I used charcoal to outline a few other features of the ship, such as the mast, but I tried to remain light in terms of pressure with that. I kept having to remind myself not to touch my face. My pondering tends to mean bringing my hands to my face I didn't want to come out with a charcoal mustache. One thing I did note was that I should probably start wearing overalls when dealing with color or sketching in general. Wearing this light top was a rookie mistake, my friends. Every now and then I kept thinking I was done with using my charcoal stick for this sketch. But seconds later, I found my hand reaching for it again and again and again. I almost put it down, friends. Almost. Eventually, more color was added with my pen pastels. Before I knew it, I had this autumnal scene in front of me. It's not a color scheme that I choose to work with often, but it's neat to push my comfort zone. I kept shifting between my pen pastels, charcoal, and my ink pen. I made sure to make the ship pop by having it wear plenty of red, matching the sky above. Everything else was mainly orange and yellow. The combination of these colors made me think of the Beatles song, Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds. Specifically the lyric, picture yourself in a boat on a river with tangerine trees and marmalade skies. Somebody calls you, you answer quite slowly, a girl with kaleidoscope eyes. I tried to give the homes in the background more detail and texture with my pen. Sometimes I feel like I run out of ideas for creating new textures with my pen. It makes me think that I haven't observed and absorbed the lines of my surroundings enough for the last 39 years of my life. I should have a massive archive of environmental observations, or in this case, home designs. The water was the last bit I finessed. I took my 0.4mm pen and touched the page lightly. I wanted the ripples to be delicate. Sure, some of the charcoal smeared onto the orange of the water, but I think that added a depth to it. Looking at the finished sketch, I felt okay about it. Not great, just okay. I felt like I didn't really put enough of me into the line work, and therefore the whole feel of the sketch is a little bland for me. A few days ago, I sketched, and out of that, I came out with 2 sketches that felt like me and what direction I want to continue to go on. One of these sketches was of Pollock House, and I used watercolor and pen. I was fast and loose. I really leaned into the delicate, awkward messiness of my lines. The messy and minimalist application of watercolor was fun to add, and it just tied everything in together. I had no idea what I was going for, but something pretty cool came out of it. The other sketch was also of Pollock House, but from a different angle with a spotlight on its gardens. I used pen, soft pastels, and charcoal, and once again, I was loose with my hand movements and embraced and even exaggerated the building's imperfections and age. I used only blues and greens for this sketch. What came out was once again something pretty awesome. Messy lines and soft, messy color. It worked. I guess that's what I mean about putting enough of me in a sketch. I like wonkiness, and unfortunately, this time around with the ship, I didn't get that feel. I think a big piece of that was because I didn't know how to do this with a subject with very clear straight lines. While old buildings lend themselves to wonkiness more, modern day subjects just don't. And since I've never observed a ship properly for a sketch, I didn't know how to add the wonk. Does that make any sense? Lastly, I think the pan pastels that I use for my tangerine scene are a bit too neat. But for messy, fun, and soft scenes, soft pastels and watercolors just add this dreamy element that doesn't have to be complicated. Friends, what do you think? What combo has been your favorite? Experimentation is humbling. I thought this ship sketch was gonna leave me buzzing. Instead, it was one of those where I'm like, yeah, that style medium combination isn't for me. And while I started to go down a little spiral, my husband chimed in and reminded me that sketching is a safe space for learning, that sketching is a safe space for learning who I am on this art journey. So friends, this sketch of a ship anchored at a harbor didn't leave me feeling like I have artistic potential. What it did do is that it provided answers and a better direction for my artistic inclinations. This sketch forced me to go and put a plan together. So my sketches don't look like this, and perhaps one day will align more to Toby's or Alan's. Friends, get out there and experiment. Your ego might get bruised, and sure, that's not great. However, all that really is your authenticity trying to break through and keep you from heading in the wrong direction. Thank you for the company today, friends. I'll see you next week.